Hi, my name is Morgan Brett, and today I'll be talking to you about 3 different books. Skippy John Jones is a picture book written by Judy Satcher. It's one of my favorite picture books. It's about a Siamese cat who thinks that he's a Chihuahua, and pretty much the story is about how he pretends to be a Chihuahua and he wants to not be a cat, and he's kind of locked in his room because his mom's telling him, you know, you need to be you need to be a Siamese cat. And I think this story's great because it's about discovering yourself. It has a bit of Spanish in it, so it's great for story times and teaching kids about Spanish phrases and stuff like that. So I really like the multicultural aspect to this, and it's also just a funny story, you know. The villain is a bee filled with beans, which isn't giving away too much, so you have to read to find out what happens to him and what Skippy John Jones's Chihuahua name is. And it's a great read. Probably one of my most memorable pictures of this is just when he's kind of bouncing around and he's just going nuts in his room as soon as his mom puts him in there to give him a chance to think. So I highly recommend Skippy John Jones. There's a bunch of other books in the series, so definitely give it a read. The second book that I'll be talking to you about is Home of the Brave by Katherine Applegate. This was almost an unexpected read for me. One of my coworkers told me that it was a book that I definitely had to pick up, and I wasn't too enthralled by the cover, but don't judge a book by its cover, perfect example. So the story is about Kek, who comes from Africa. There's a big revolution going on there right now, and a lot of people were killed. Pretty much Kek's entire family was killed except for him and his mother. So he is a refugee. He gets sent to America, and he lives with his aunt and his cousin, who just struggle to learn about American culture and learn the English language. They're kind of just thrown into everything. It's really sad. But the great thing about this novel is that it's written completely in free verse. So chapters look like this. And it's pretty much about Kek's story. He writes about how he gets to America, what happens when he first gets there, how school, and just finding an American identity when all he had was his African identity, and melding the two together. And I really like this story. Kek's an amazing character, written so well, and the way that he interacts and learns, and he's just so inquisitive and bright, and it's just great how he overcomes his the obstacles that he's faced with. And it's definitely a good read. It's a quick read. If you don't really like reading full-length chapter books, this is a really good option. And it's telling a story in a different way that I'm not used to reading, so it was really cool to hear a story in this way. And I'll give this book okay, so it's starting to rain, so I'm gonna finish this up. The third and final book that I'll be talking about is The Island of Beyond by Elizabeth Atkinson. This was also a book. It's brand new. It was just published this year. It's a coming-of-age novel. I'd say it's at a tween level, because it raises a lot of questions. There's a little subtle questioning of sexuality going on, and acceptance of gays in the LGBTQ community. It's very subtle, but I don't think that younger kids should be reading it, but I could be wrong. But yeah, it's a great story. The main character's name is Martin, and he's pretty much a tech guy, doesn't like going outside, doesn't like playing outside, uncoordinated, and these are all things that are kind of pushed on him. His dad wants him to become a man, and like sends him away for the summer to his great aunt's house in this island in May called the Island of Beyond. And so I'm having some difficulties with my other camera, so I'm just going to finish this up with my phone. Sorry if the quality is not so great, or the audio, but sorry. So the Island and Beyond, Martin gets sent to live with his great aunt for the summer, and he gets to this island and he's like, I gotta last a week here before my mom said she would pick me up. And he's supposed to stay there for the entire month of July. And at first he just kind of tries to stay in his room. He doesn't want to come out that much. And eventually he like meets this mysterious kid. His name's Samuel, but he goes by Solo, and he calls Martin Martian, which is interesting because it's like they're both outcasts. They're both words. Solo, alone. Martian, you're like an outsider. You're not really like everyone else, which is really interesting play on characterization in this novel. And because of that, they form this incredible bond in 1 month, and they're completely opposite from each other, but they're both brilliant. They're very creative people. They want to try new things, have adventures. Martin shows him certain things that Solo's never seen before, and Solo teaches Martin things that he thought he could never do before. And it's building up self-confidence throughout the whole summer. Martin builds up this like sense of self-confidence that's really, really great, and that he never got from his parents. He was just kind of sheltered and coddled and kept from hurting himself and things, and like that's how you learn sometimes. So it was just really interesting to see this play out in a novel, and it's interesting how fast I read through it and how great of a read it was, even though there's not like too much going on, but it's just like a summer on an island in the wilderness, and it doesn't get much crazier than what you expect it would be, but it's making something extraordinary out of the ordinary, and that's exactly what this book does.